Welcome to Which Way. I'm Elise, and in this episode I will be revisiting the real-world witch lore of the 1996 teen horror, The Craft. This film's opening scene is gorgeous, showing us an altar being prepared. Front and center, of course, we have a pentagram. It's 5 points representing the 5 elements: earth, air, fire, water, and spirit. But it's only 4 of these elements the film focuses on. We are introduced to 3 of our 4 witches as they join in a chant together. I always like to see if actors have portrayed witches before, and of course Fairuza Balk, who portrays Nancy, has, as Mildred Hubble from the 1986 family film The Worst Witch. Not only has she portrayed a witch before, but she was also a practicing Wiccan.
I just went and had coffee with her and found out that she was actually very knowledgeable about paganism and Wicca, and in fact a practicing Wiccan, and that kind of clinched it for me. I mean, she's a great actress, she was perfect for the part, and she had this immense base of knowledge.
Every time it seems that someone tries to make a film about witchcraft, because they try to market it, they have to distort it to make it into something either evil or silly or stupid. And it is something that is very, very sacred.
But she wasn't the only one.
She's very much Wiccan, and so she really had a certain understanding of it. I think probably that even though I was into all that stuff, I think she had a really deep understanding of it.
Indeed, Rachel True was very much into it. Years after her role as Rochelle in The Craft, she released her own tarot deck and guidebook, the True Heart Intuitive Tarot. And she co-hosts the Circle Is podcast, where she speaks about her experiences filming The Craft and interviews authors and celebrities. My favourite episode is with Heather Green, the author of Lights, Camera, Witchcraft, which goes through the history of witches in American film, of course delving into The Craft. The opening credits of the film alone gets interesting as it is filled with occult imagery, so of course I had to go through it frame by frame to find them all. First, there are several images from the Book of Black Magic and Pacts by Arthur Waite. Then some renderings of a few of the artist Goya's illustrations. We also see the Hierophant card from occultist Aleister Crowley's Thoth tarot deck, and the card's reverse side representing the Rose Cross of the occult society, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, of which he and Arthur Waite were both members. And it's not the last Aleister Crowley work that is referenced in the film, but we will get into that later, as we also see in the opening credits illustrations from Eliphas Levi's Dogma and High Magic, such as the Goetic Circle of Black Evocations and Pacts, which apparently can be used to summon the devil. We also see this a little bit later in the film, but we also see his illustration of Baphomet, an occult figure come to represent the balance of opposites. As above, so below. When we are introduced to our 4th witch, Sarah, we see snakes appearing to her from the very beginning, perhaps revealing to her a path of transformation as they shed their skins to make way for the new. Or it could also be representing the element she would become associated with as the snake slithers across the very earth. Our first 3 witches seem to know about her arrival.
The almanac says today will bring an arrival of something.
Yeah, wonderful. I'm getting my rag.
A new wholeness, and with it a new balance. Earth, air, water, fire. Maybe it's our 4th.
So Bonnie is covering most of the title of her almanac, but it turns out this is the Witch's Almanac, which is still in print. Since 1971, they have been printing these seasonal almanacs, and you can view their back catalogue on the Internet Archive for free. This is where I managed to find one from 1995, which may have been the one that they were consulting, printed out in black and white. The Witch's Almanac is described as being a compendium of ancient lore and legend, the indispensable guide and delightful companion for adept, occultist, witch, and mortal alike. I completely missed this in my first Witch Lore review, so I am very glad I came back for another look, as these little guides are simply delightful indeed. Initially, Sarah doesn't vibe with our three witches, as it doesn't help that they are referred to as thus.
Oh shit. It's the bitches of Eastwick.
This is, of course, a clever pun on the 1987 film The Witches of Eastwick, based on the novel by John Updike. Remember the image on this book because it does come up later. The book was also adapted into a short-lived TV series, Eastwick, which I haven't been able to track down. At the end of this scene, we hear a song that is now well known for another witchy show. If you stream Charmed now, you may hear a different title theme, but the song was originally this Love Spit Love cover of the song How Soon Is Now by the Smiths. It has also been noted that the director of The Craft, Andrew Fleming, wrote a pilot for a TV series of The Craft, but it was dropped not long after Charmed came on the scene, theme song and all. When the three witches finally approach Sarah, Nancy can be seen carrying a book, Tarot and Individuation by Dr. Irene Gadd. It was said the actor would regularly be seen consulting occult books on set, and they even made it into some scenes apparently. The four then visit the magic shop together. Just as they enter, you can see some books on display. I was only able to identify a few. There is a collection of Times's Mysteries of the Universe, and there are two books by the aforementioned Aleister Crowley with his Thoth Tarot deck. You can see his The Confessions of Aleister Crowley and Magic in Theory and Practice. But let's just appreciate this magic shop for a second. It is stunning. The filmmakers did visit magic shops to research the film, so it was really great to see that they tried to make it as welcoming and mysterious as possible. Here, Bonnie helps prepare their potential new coven member for her magical journey.
You put spells and power thoughts in it, and then you don't let anyone else read it. Ever. Except maybe us.
She is, of course, describing a book of shadows, which many practitioners create. They are extremely personalized and can even be a digital version, but there is something about that physical book. One of the earliest publicly known Book of Shadows is on display, which belonged to Gerald Gardner, the founder of Wicca, a neo-pagan religion which came into the public eye in the 50s, and he claimed that it was based on traditional ancient practices. I should note that some Wiccans call themselves witches, but not all witches are Wiccan. Again, in the magic shop, we can see more of the Goya illustrations, some of which were seen in the credits, plus trials. But a new artist enters the chat with Albrecht Dührer's 15th century engraving, The Witch, depicting a witch riding backwards on a goat. And I see this image come up quite a bit in my witch lore reviews. The shop owner Lirio makes the sale with Sarah, introducing her to the craft with a handy book. Not only does this book name drop the title of the film, but then it also makes an appearance in its remake, The Craft Legacy. Sarah is again confronted by a snake after visiting the shop, but this time after being made aware of her potential and being with her new coven members, they quickly rid themselves of the danger and briefly unite.
Well, then that's it, you guys. Sarah's the fourth, north, south, east, and west. We can make things happen. I mean, this is it. This is real.
Shit. Do you guys worship the devil?
I think this is what makes this film different to other witch movies that came before it. No devil worship involved. As Sally from Practical Magic would later say,
No, there's no devil in the craft.
instead, they believe in something else.
You guys, maybe he'll really listen now.
Who?
Manon.
Oh, what's that? That's like God? No, man invented God. This is older than that.
It's like God and the devil. I mean, it's everything. It's the trees, it's the ground, it's the rocks, it's the moon, it's everything.
It's nature.
This deity was created for the film and has cropped up a few times in some other witchy watches as an homage to this film. In The Magicians,
Oh, Manon! We offer up this virgin!
the Charmed reboot,
It reminds me of the time the demon Mammon was pursuing us.
of course, the Craft remake,
In the name of Manon, I give you my power.
and potentially inspired the name of one of my favourite literary witches, Manon Blackbeak from the Throne of Glass series. And you cannot tell me that is not her on the cover. She's got her white hair, riding leathers, red cloak, and her sword. Though that one may be a stretch because Manon is a legit feminine name, just not usually associated with witches or a deity. The girls are all drawn to witchcraft with their outcast status, something many of us can relate to. Rochelle's struggle is introduced with her element, water, which she hasn't fully connected with due to racial bullying. Next, Bonnie's element is fire, but she is held back from her connection after literally being burned and scarred by it. Sarah struggles with depression and is still trying to ground herself with her earth element. Nancy is air, but her home life is bringing her down. The wind from the storm literally knocks out her power. But soon they come together and embrace themselves and their weirdness when we get this line.
Girls, watch out for those weirdos.
We are the weirdos, mister.
And of course, Legacy does try and recreate this.
We are the weirdos, mister.
On the way to find the perfect spot for their first ritual, we hear Juliana Hatfield's cover of the Witch's Song by Mariana Faithfull, originally released in 1979, which mentions the mother and father, the god and goddess. Since its inception in the 50s, by the 70s, Wicca had branched off into many different practices, including Dianic Wicca, which worships mostly the goddess elements, and it was a Dianic high priestess that the filmmakers consulted for this film, Pat Devon. In an interview with Witchwood and Castle Between Worlds, she stated, "My goal for the rituals and chants was that they be authentic, if generic, and that they contain nothing that could not be easily found in at least 2 books or plausibly created by teenage girls." And we see just that in their first chant together, where the 4 embrace themselves and their elements.
Earth, air, fire, water, water, air, 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 earth, air, fire, water.
They follow this with their first ritual, an initiation.
It is better that you should rush upon this blade than enter the circle with fear in your heart. How do you enter?
With perfect love and perfect trust.
These words come from the Wiccan Rede, a set of guidelines for practitioners of Wicca. Bide the Wiccan law ye must in perfect love and perfect trust. Another part of the Rede does pop up later, but Nancy closes the initiation.
As above, so below.
Her statement reflects the earlier brief appearance of Baphomet in the opening credits, the duality and balancing of all things. And here we also see that Nancy has an association with snakes as they appear on her choice of athame, a ritual dagger. The four then choose their first spells for acceptance, beauty, power, and love. When Sarah states the intended victim of her love spell, Chris, she places a photo of him over the Empress card. This card is grounded in the earth element, so it's almost as if she is again ignoring her acceptance of her earth ability and then using it instead to influence another. Her spell is the first to start working, and after we see this, she enters the school church. The sermon in the background is on the topic of Adam and Eve.
In the book of Genesis, we find
you Stepford boy?
Adam and Eve who are given the opportunity to live in paradise with only one proviso. Do not eat of the tree of knowledge.
This again alludes to the serpent, which she ignores, but it could also be foreshadowing of Nancy's spell, warning people that they should not know what gods know. Also in this scene, Nancy can be seen still expanding her knowledge of the occult with a book on the subject of Kabbalah. Hermetic Kabbalah was the basis of the studies of the previously mentioned Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, and from my vague understanding, focuses on elements of manifesting the divine and how you connect with it. The excitement over Sarah's love spell working encourages the coven, and they bond over a party game of light as a feather, stiff as a board, one of the coolest scenes in the film. They can then be seen watching Bewitched, a 60s sitcom that follows a witch who wants to become a housewife. They then reinforce their spells, and we see Sarah weaving a lock of Rochelle and her bully's hair into a braid. Rochelle is the first to voice her concerns over any possible repercussions of their spell work.
What do you think will happen to Laura? I don't know. If she leaves you alone, nothing will happen to her. Nothing good.
Nancy is also seen working with Bonnie on her spell, with her element fire in the background. Nancy also adding her intent, showing Nancy and Sarah to be the two who are most influencing these spells. Shortly after, we see Rochelle's bully have a go at her yet again, and the spell takes effect immediately, with her hair starting to fall out. She should have just left her alone, and now Rochelle is in her element. Bonnie is next when she sees the result of her treatment, with the scars falling off her body, letting her accept her fire and confidence. But there is a deleted scene that takes place just before her results take effect, showing Sarah visiting the hospital. Here she conducts a healing ritual.
Goddess of healing, let it begin. Healing without, healing within.
This scene is interesting because it shows a time where Sarah embraces her abilities of earth and healing, and really enforces that Sarah was the catalyst of the coven's power, even if not the source of it. Nancy is the last, but we see her still working on her spell in front of an altar. Again, we see the snake prevalent for Nancy as well, which she has accepted. And after making her intent known, the spell manifests. Hers is by far the most violent, a raging storm. After this, life is sweet for the coven, and they go and check out Nancy's new apartment. In her room, we briefly see some posters. Again, a snake, this time from a manuscript on alchemy, which describes the snake as having healing abilities, though once it's dismembered of its volatile and poisonous nature. We also see an 18th century illustration depicting the principle of all things. It reads bis and abyss, nothing and all, time and eternity. Again, representing the duality and balance that is required within the coven. There are also several books in Nancy's room, but I cannot identify them as yet. Though we can see the craft book again, and one of the illustrations from the opening credits can be seen inside. And here, the coven tries a glamour.
Throwing a glamour, an illusion so real as to fool an onlooker, is one of the oldest forms of magic.
It is indeed an old form of magic and is actually described in the Malleus Maleficarum, the 15th century witch hunters manual. They argue that witches can't actually physically manifest their abilities, that it is an illusion or a glamour. But then we see cracks start to form in the coven and the balance tips. First with Chris obsessing over Sarah, so she goes back to the magic shop for help.
Well, then understand this. Whatever you send out, you get back ×3.
This is the other line that also pulls from the aforementioned Wiccan read. And ever mind the rule of 3, what ye send out comes back to thee. But this time it's Nancy that isn't paying attention, as something else has caught her eye. The text in this book is also from the book in the opening credits, the Book of Black Magic and Pacts by Arthur Waite. But the cover is that Goetic circle from Eliaphius Levy's book, which was actually translated into English by Arthur Waite. From this book, Nancy learns of evoking the spirit of Manon, so the coven head to the beach to call the corners. During the filming of this ritual, calling the corners, an actual practice in which they each call on their elements and cardinal points, the cast and crew got a little spooked.
And she'd heard that that beach didn't like pagan ceremonies, because she'd heard from some witch associates that it was a bad place for pagan rituals.
Well, while we were doing the invocation on the beach, it was strange because when we would get into the invocation, the surf came up higher and then it would go down when we stopped. And I wasn't the only one that noticed this on the beach, but Pat was there, and she said it was okay for us to just invoke the spirits and do it and get it on film, that it wasn't being disrespectful. So we just did it for real.
When the water came up and washed away the set, it was sort of fun, spooky. Had we just been 4 girls out on the beach doing it ourselves without a whole camera crew, it would have been petrifying.
But we also hear during this ritual that it takes place on a certain night.
Aid us in our magical working on this May's Eve.
This could be referring to Beltane or May Day, a pagan holiday which celebrates spring. Or in Germany, Walpurgisnacht takes place on this night, a night where witches were said to travel to their Sabbaths. But here, Nancy invokes the spirit of Manon, finally realizing the full potential of her spell. Sarah worries at Nancy flaunting this power, and even Rochelle is remorseful at the effects of her spell on her bully, leading her to question her actions, her own reflection even turning on her. Sarah's love spell turns to complete obsession and even assault on her person, and Nancy isn't having any of this, so she in turn assaults Chris by pretending to be Sarah. Sarah tries to stop Nancy, and this leads to an iconic scene in the film and a most memorable moment when Nancy absolutely loses her mind. You can even see this scene in the closing credits of the series Agatha All Along. Sarah realizes that Nancy has completely lost it and tries to fix things by carrying out another spell. Again, this spell is based in actual practices, using a photo to represent the intended recipient of the spell and literally binding them.
I bind you from doing harm, Nancy. Harm against other people and harm against yourself.
After Nancy finds out though, she confronts Sarah, who apparently chooses this moment to snap a Polaroid off screen because this scene ends up as a Polaroid appearing in the Craft Legacy. So again, Sarah goes to the magic shop, where we can see yet more artwork. Remember the Witches of Eastwick novel? You can see the same image on the wall. This is another artwork by Albert Dürer, who did The Witch Riding Backwards. This one depicts 4 witches potentially initiating one another. Here, Lirio encourages Sarah to call the corners herself and to finally embrace her magic, taking it to a better place. But again, Nancy and the Coven interrupts and Sarah flees, and this leads to the final confrontation of the film. This is an iconic witch film, and I've heard many practitioners even state that this was indeed their first introduction to witchcraft. It definitely influenced many more witchy films to come. That same year, Little Witches was released, and the poster makes the lead actress appear very much like Nancy, snakes in her hair and all. The Craft's movie poster itself has been reimagined several times for other witchy films. 2006 saw the release of The Covenant, dubbed The Craft but with boys, whose 2 female characters are named Sarah, pretty common name I know, but the other is named Kate Tunney. Sarah in The Craft was portrayed by Robin Tunney, so perhaps this may be a nod to the film. The same year as The Covenant, we also had Five Girls, then 2015's The Coven, a junk film, 2019's Bloodcraft, which I have not seen because it also does not look great, and of course 2020's remake with The Craft Legacy. It's been 5 years since I first started reviewing the real-world witch lore that inspired witches in film. I started with The Craft, so I am definitely happy that I came back to it because I did pick up on so much more, which then made me appreciate the set design on a whole new level. What did you think of this film? Let me know in the comments, as well as your recommendations for more films, series, and even books for me to dig into. You can complete your Witch Way ritual in liking this video, sharing it with others, and subscribing to my channel to stay notified of new content. And as always, thank you very much for watching here on Witch Way.